In the third video, what we're going to look at is understanding what kind of resources are available in the database. And I want to have a special aside on images because I think that's important. You don't usually think of using images in your database. If you remember from the last video, video number 2, we were looking at the idea of racism as a topic and trying to see what was available. I'm on that racism page and I can see that besides this overview article that we've already talked about, there's all kinds of other things available. So I have reference articles and biographies, images. It goes all the way down through case overviews, magazines, critical essays, websites, all sorts of things are available. Let's say that I look through my notes from my US history class and I realize, I have a really good idea. Actually, I do have a specific idea. If that's the case, I would want to come up here to the top search bar and just type it in. Now I'm looking through my notes and my teacher had talked about the civil rights movement in the 1960s. And one of the things that she mentioned was a Black Power movement. This had interested me at the time, and looking back at my notes, I'm remembering it. I think it's what I want to use for my presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and put in Black Power or Black Power movement. I'm going to see this. And you can see in the drop-down menu, some things will come up. Some of these are just going to be like book reviews. So this one right here that I've highlighted, The New Voice of Success, is a nonfiction work. Black Theology and Black Power is a religious work, theological. And then, of course, the next one, again, is also a nonfiction work. I'm not so interested in book reviews as sources, though. I want a lot of overview. I want lots of different kinds of resources. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Black Power Movement because that is the phrase that I have in my notes. It's what my teacher said. I do this, I get on the page. Now notice first, you guys, on the page for Black Power Movement, we have again this sort of everything bar over to the right. You might be able to tell that this one's a little bit shorter just by looking at it. And in fact, there are fewer resources here than there were on the general idea of racism. This is a good thing because you don't want thousands of things that you're not going to look at. You want a very tighter descriptor of exactly what you're going to look at. Everything here is about the Black Power movement. Therefore, it's going to make your life easier. Notice like here, we had websites before, we don't have them now. So it is shorter. Notice too that when you get onto the page, the top thing, the first thing that you're asked to look at are the reference articles. Reference articles are very important. You should always look at them first, particularly when you don't know a lot about a topic. They are general overviews. They'll give you a really good idea of what you're studying. Here, I know that there are 34 reference articles without something about the Black Power movement because it says so here. But I also note that there's 3 that are given. This is a good idea. You should always look at those top 3 first because the top 3 in a database are the 3 that are most relevant to your topic. As we get down to, like, say, the 33rd or the 34th reference article, they might just mention the Black Power movement, but not necessarily be about it. Now, this, again, is unlike a regular open Google search. When you search on Google, there are reasons why things come to the top, but it's not because they're the most relevant. Somebody may have paid for them to come to the top. Somebody may have kind of like stacked the deck so they'll come to the top. It's not necessarily relevant. Okay, here, what you're getting is the best stuff at the top. And again, references are your first go when you don't know a lot about a topic. I want to just go a little bit of an aside here and look at the images. It says there's 4. I think there's only 3 because I think these 2 are the same. But I'm going to go ahead and click on one of those 2 and just bring it up. So I can see what this is, Stokely Carmichael's influential figure in the Black Power movement. So I look through this and I see I like this image. As I study, I might want to use it in my presentation or in my paper. Now, here's the thing. When you use when you use an image in a presentation or a paper, you have to cite it the same way that you would cite a book or an article or a website or a podcast that you used for your work. If you look at a Google image search, you may have a hard time finding the source citation. It might not tell you where it came from, and you're going to have to backtrack, and you're going to do some work, and it's going to take some time. The reason why I would want to use these images, even though there are not many of them, is because I can cite them very easily. And if I look down here, I'm just going to highlight it so you guys can see really quickly that this is the citation for this picture. And if I want to use this picture, I am just going to take this citation. I'm going to copy the citation and paste it onto my works cited page or to the last slide of my presentation. And then I will have done, due diligence. I've done a good job. My teacher's going to be happy. I'm happy. And I didn't have to waste a lot of time searching. Okay, so that's the citation on the images. All right, let's look at one more thing. I want to go back to my results page. So I'm going to come up here, see where it says search results. I want to go back because I don't just need images. I do need some other things. Unfortunately for me as a little researcher, I do have to do some work. Okay, but it should be interesting. And coming back here, I'm going to see that that picture was about Stokely Carmichael. And so I think I'm interested in I want to know something about Stokely Carmichael, actually. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on this biography and get a little bit of his life story. I'm wondering what he has to do with the Black Power movement, how influential he was, things like that. So I go ahead and look at this. Again, I noticed that there are some things I can do with the article. And one of them is figure out how hard it is to read before I even look at it. I can go here and there's always kind of an idea next to it that tells me how difficult it is to read. The content level of this is intermediate. As a high school student, I should be able to read that, to be honest. There's also basic and advanced articles. As a high school student, I should be able to read almost any advanced article, except in the special cases of academic journals. I'll talk about that in just a second, okay? Let me go back to my search results again. And let's say my teacher had told me, my history teacher, you have to have at least one primary source that you use it for your presentation. So I look under everything here and I see primary sources are separate. This is very cool too, because if I'm doing a Google search, I may have a harder time with that. But here it is. So this is a Black Power speech, July 28th, 1966. Again, the reading level's right here. Same thing, intermediate reading level. I know this is a speech because it's called a speech, but if I didn't, I would know because student resources and context always tells me what I'm looking at. So if I look over here to the right, it says a speech. If it weren't, it might say something else. Article, biography, it could say book review, podcast, website, all sorts of things. And I would know right away what I was looking at. Okay? So this is a Black Power speech from July 28, 1966. Okay, one other on the search result I want to look at is this one where it says academic journals. An academic journal is a special case, and you can see that all of these have a little red triangle next to them, and that's because they are all an advanced reading level. In fact, here they'll give you the Lexile level. In the advanced reading level, again, most high school students read at advanced reading level as well they should. However, advanced journals can be at a academic journals, a super high reading level because they might be talking to an audience that's not a high school student. It might be like a PhD in a certain topic, neurosciences, talking to another PhD in neurosciences. And when you get into it, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know what they're talking about. So this could happen, but not always. There is also a case where AP teachers will ask students to only use articles for their research that are peer-reviewed. If that's the case for you, you are going to be looking at academic journals, and you should be able to read them because you're in an AP class, and they will be peer-reviewed, okay? So those are the things that are available to you, or some of them. We'll look at the rest a little bit later.